Okay, welcome to the Lobo Den Podcast. I'm our guest, Sean Bair Flannery. We talk about drinking in Cleveland. What did we talk about? Do you remember?
We talked about drinking in Cleveland. We talked about bad cars. We talked about fake IDs.
Blacking out.
First drinks. You know, a lot of nostalgia on this podcast.
All right.
I feel.
Yeah. Go Tribe. Okay. Thank you, Justin. All right, Lobo Den. Okay, welcome to the Lobo Den Podcast. I'm your host, Giovanni Diaz at Common Glyph Studios with Justin, and today our guest is Sean Bair Flannery. He's Irish, a drunk, right? This is
Proudly both.
Happy Dry January,
Yeah.
Sean. Happy voted best drunk in Chicago. Is that what you?
Yeah,
voted
Chicago
for?
Reader once named me best drunk in Chicago, and it was really interesting because. The Reader did they're doing their best of awards now where people are like campaigning for it. And they did this one year where instead of naming everything like the best coffee house or the best stand-up comic, they would figure out little interesting things about the place they wanted to name the best and then say the award was actually for like best coffee house attached to a car wash or something like that. And for me, I thought they were just going to call me best comic, but they called me best drunk. Yeah. And some dudes actually got angry about it.
I'm a better drunk than you.
Yeah, like I would be. It's almost like the way like if you're a heavyweight fighter or something, and like
Undisputed.
people want to attack you or something like that, and they'd be like, "Man, I've rooted 4 marriages, like 3 DUIs. I'm like, well, that doesn't make you a better drunk, you know."
It makes you a worse drunk.
I think
right?
so. Yeah, and maybe a bigger drunk, but not a better drunk.
Because you're a good drunk. You're not an angry drunk from everything I've seen.
Super happy drunk.
Happy drunk. Go lucky. You just like to drink. I think my first time I saw you was at CYSK.
Okay.
And you were telling 2 stories. The one you have on Comedy Central,
All right.
This is not happening, right?
All right.
That one where you go over
Where I fell off the roof? Yeah.
Not the roof one. The
other
one.
highway. Oh,
the highway one.
Yeah.
And something about licking batteries. I remember.
Oh yeah, that was a job interview. I knocked myself unconscious in the middle of a job interview.
You have a lot of bad job interviews. What happened in this? That I remember.
That's a funny story. That's actually a chapter in my book. But
what's the name of your book?
Places I Can't Return to. And each chapter is a place I can't go back to. One of the chapters is Battery Hut. That was the name of the place. It was a kiosk in the middle of the mall that would sell like watch batteries and such and replace them.
I worked at one of those.
Yeah, and it's actually not a bad job because you're just sitting there alone for most of the day. The job was kind of in the bag because I knew the assistant manager and she recommended me, and I'm just lying through my teeth, like claiming that I'm well qualified for this job, just bullshitting my way through it. And I don't know if you ever did this, but me and my brothers and sisters, when we were growing up, we would lick 9-volt batteries, and you get like a silly little charge.
Get a little
My old man would actually tell us that's how we would check to see if the fire alarm battery was still good.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad would have us take it out of the fire alarm and lick it. And then if it made a silly little charge in our mouth, he'd be like, we're good.
And there's 5 of you, right?
6 of us in total, 5 brothers and sisters.
Okay.
So a lot of tongues ready to lick batteries. And she pulls out this drawer of batteries, and they look like 9 volts, but they're not they're like a little bit bigger than 9 volts. And she asked me, she goes, how would you describe your overall level of battery knowledge? And lying, I go, I'd say expert or above. I then pick one up. I don't know it yet, but these are 48-volt garage door opener batteries. Ooh. And I go, you ever do this? Lick it. Knock myself clean unconscious.
Did you get the job?
I got the job.
You got the... Oh, right.
You know what's funny is she called me the next day. Because I actually knocked myself unconscious, so I just had to go home. Like they called an ambulance. Like it was scary for them. And the next day she called and offered me the job, and I was like, I gotta ask, like, why? Like, what did the other candidates do for me to be the best person you saw? Mm-hmm. And she told me, she's like, listen, this job pays me almost as badly as it's going to pay you. It sucks. You seem like you'd be fun to work with.
And that's it.
Yeah, so that's why I'm hiring you.
You've been through a lot of jobs, haven't you?
I used to when I was in high school and college.
I did the thing you did, the fake interview, not the fake interview. I used to call it practice interviewing.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge believer in that.
Like where you go to interviews, we don't care.
Yeah, just lie about the skill set you have and everything. It's great practice for
real interviews.
For real interview, because you don't get to practice that at all. You know, it's not like basketball where you can pick up a pickup game or something like that. I would do that all the time. I would lie about skill sets I had. And the only downside is sometimes I would actually get the job.
Which one did you?
I got a network security job.
Is that the one you lost the car?
I did not lose a car on that one.
Okay.
That was a different job. That was so I actually started a career in network security software.
But you were a philosophy major.
I was a philosophy major.
Hold on. How did you go from philosophy to network engineering?
So it all has to do with when I graduated.
Okay.
I graduated during the height of the Y2K paranoia. And for listeners that are very young,
they don't know what that is.
They will not know what that was. But in 1999, they realized that all these computers were storing dates with 2 digits. And when it turned 2000, a lot of programs were going to think it's the year 1900, and they were going to like calculate the interest wrong for your bank account, like plain. They were talking like there were people that were prepping for the end of the world in 1999.
Yeah, Y2K was the end of the world. Everything was going to shut down. Planes were going to come down from the sky.
Huge. Yeah. And when we tell this to people now, it's like there's no way people actually believe it. I'm like, they 100% did, and there was so much paranoia around it. And what I will say is somebody who then got hired into it.
I was a little scared. We all were.
No, so actually they were right in their fear. What ended up happening is the government basically just wrote a check. And they said, hire whoever you need to. We will give you rebates and everything and fix this shit. Like, don't worry about money. Fix everything. So they came to my college, all these consulting companies, and they gave a computer aptitude programming test to the computer majors, obviously. And then something in their studies had told them to also give it to math majors, philosophy majors, and physics majors. And I scored high enough that they just hired me into doing computer programming for Y2K. But then once I had that job down and they trained me on how to do it, and I had that job down, then I started interviewing for computer jobs where I didn't know shit. And I was just like, well, what could be the worst that happens, you know?
Because you interviewed with a guy, who was the dude who didn't know what, that was funny. You interviewed a guy who didn't know what philosophy was.
Oh, right? Yeah, that was at a thrift store where they wanted me to be.
He was the owner, right?
Yeah, Village Discount Thrift Store, which is, I think, still a chain in Ohio. I think it's actually, they've got some in Chicago, too. But, yeah, I forgot about that story. But, yeah, he's interviewing me
which is kind of like what philosophy is. Like he's asking what philosophy. I was thinking about it. It's kind of meta.
It would be meta if he was not that smart.
Hey,
but yeah,
what's philosophy? What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. But it was to run their computer systems at all their different stores, and I got a lot of pushback at that age about being a philosophy major going into computers.
I was a philosophy. Well, for a little bit,
really?
I was a dual. I didn't finish philosophy, but I started dual philosophy because the same thing. When I transferred from a community college to a regular college, and they told me, my ethics teacher said, hey, philosophy majors do the best on the LSAT.
They do.
Yeah, and at the time I wanted to be a lawyer, logic, all that stuff.
I went to a very small school. There were only 40 philosophy majors. 39 of them became lawyers. You're looking at the one that didn't become a lawyer.
Yeah. And so that's why I did it. But eventually I was like, it wasn't for me, and I dropped it. I was very, I wanted like real world answers, and it was too much. It was too heady, and the people in the class.
Philosophy majors are the worst. My wife always talks about that. She's like, you're the only philosophy major I can stand. But yeah, they can be, like we would have, luckily a lot of them dropped out.
Do you have a big vocabulary?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I remember I was philosophy classes, and I was just looking up words every day. I was like, what is that? These other students, I didn't know what they were saying.
Like Derrida and some of the philosophers, it's like impenetrable. Like you just can't, there's no way anyone could walk away saying, I understood that. Or Wittgenstein, but it also really depends on the philosophy school, not to do too big of a deep dive into philosophy, but some schools that do more of a modern language and logic approach, I feel like that's more practical stuff, Like I was a philosophy major when the first Matrix movie came out.
Oh yeah, we did that in our community college philosophy. We did Matrix and Simpsons a lot.
There would be one. we had this, the philosophy, there would be lawyers, like maybe one or two people like me that just kind of dug philosophy. And then it'd be a couple deadheads that just like wanted to expand their mind.
Yeah.
And they're like, they would ask something like, we'd be in like a symbolic logic course, and they'd be like, so as you can see, due to Leibniz's law, all the variables on this are in the same set as this, so we're talking about the same object. And somebody would raise their hand and like, but what if we're like just in a jar, man? Just like every philosophy teacher would fucking lose it. And they're like, and they didn't know about this movie, so they didn't know why everyone was suddenly proposing this in every class, you know? And I had to explain it to one of my philosophy majors. I'm like, there's a movie out right now that's like an action movie about humans in a false matrix, you know, and that. And they're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. I've just been losing my temper at students for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, we watched clips from The Matrix in my intro to philosophy class in community college. So it was Simpsons and Matrix.
Oh, really? Well, the what's their name? The Wachowski siblings. I know one of is like now a lady. Woman.
Yeah.
But they're very into philosophy in those movies, and you can tell that. You know,
and we went over the Jesus thing, something else. And then, but I did like, did you ever get into, what is that called? The whole, what is it? Multiverse thing? Not multiverse. That's fucking Marvel. But did you guys get into, what is it? Simulation theory a little bit? I got into a little bit older. Now I have a kid.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely it's actually kind of a growing belief in a lot of, you know, like there's a lot of like Silicon Valley leaders that believe in that, like Elon Musk type people that believe we are living in a simulation. And some of them even think they can crack out of the simulation. I went to the kind of philosophy school that they treated discussions like simulations almost the way ancient philosophers treated discussions on God, where there's no way we can answer that in this universe. So why would we even talk about something that is unanswerable? So I went to the kind of program that didn't prioritize those discussions, which I enjoyed. I kind of liked working on things that at the end of the day, you could say one answer was more correct than the other.
How long did you have this Chevy Cavalier?
Oh, dude, I had that car.
You know, rich people don't know what that car is.
1987 Chevy Cavalier.
4-door, 2-door?
It was a 2-door. And only one of the doors worked. One of them was wired shut with chicken wire.
Okay.
Because it wouldn't stay
closed.
Passenger
Everybody
side.
has to go in.
Come in.
And then you got to put the seat down to get your friends in the back.
AC and heating was broke. So I had to have blankets in the winter. Heating was broke. And no mechanic could figure that out. They're like, you'd think the engine would just be able to heat it up at the end of the day. But we don't know why it's not getting through.
No, you're bringing me back to my Chevy Beretta with no heat. What did you do? I had no radio. Did you have a radio?
Radio did work. It was almost like planes, trains, and automobiles. Radio was the one thing that worked. Heat was a big problem, dude. So I almost always had to drive with a passenger. So I was almost always driving us around, because the problem is when you don't have heat and it's super cold, your body heat starts to warm up the interior of the car, and then you get frost on the inside. So we would have a scrape. One of my buddies would scrape the inside so I could see out of the car while we are driving on a highway.
So I had to do is I had no heat, and at one point, so I was bundled up with my gloves, and then so no heat, no radio. So I bought one of these little Sony portable radios.
Oh, yeah.
And I had with batteries. You had to put like 4 AA batteries in it. So I'd be sitting there probably listening to Man Count at the time. So I'm driving to Lake Forest College go to my philosophy. And at one point, my windshield wipers stopped working. So they would do this. And they would cross with each other.
Like they're fighting?
They would cross with each other, right? Or sometimes they would do this, where it would just be at the bottom, and it would just kind of... It wouldn't even come up. It would just move. So then I always had this big glove, so I'd be driving. I don't know if you saw the Simpsons episode when they went to like New York, which was, I think it was New York. Yeah, they went to
where Homer keeps getting ticketed?
Yeah, keeps getting ticketed, Mountain Dew, the Twin Towers. So they're on the way back, the garbage is hitting him. But I just remember the garbage is hitting him when he was leaving New York. He hated the city. So I'm driving, and as I'm driving, the thing starts hitting. So every minute it's snowing, I have to... I have to tap it with my thing to get the windshield wiper going. And at one point, the trunk stopped working because I went to, I told the story before, but I went to Dunkin'. You know, now they have Frappuccinos, right? At the time, Dunkin' didn't have it. Starbucks came out with it, then Dunkin' had it. And I saw commercials, like I really wanted it. And I told my friend, I've been thinking about it all day, and I finally get it. And I haven't had any sip on it, so I'm about to take a sip. My friend's in the car next to me because we just left Dunkin', and he's with his girlfriend. And then he sees me get rear-ended. Right as I'm about to take a sip, I get rear-ended. It flies all over the place. The lady drives off who hit me, and then I was going to follow her, but I didn't have insurance, so I didn't follow her out of fear. But then I realized we got Wisconsin plates at the time on my car because in Wisconsin you didn't need insurance. And I realized, oh shit, I don't need insurance. I'm not breaking any law. So at that point she's gone. So now I had bungees and I play golf. So then I had nowhere. I had to put my golf clubs in my trunk or in the back seat to lock the doors because I can't put them in the. And it was just, oh my God, dude.
Dude, you know what I've always wanted to do is, like, I have this Blackout Diaries show where people tell true drinking stories, and we sometimes have, like, bartenders and, like, so-called experts on it. I've always wanted to do that format where people tell stories about bad cars. I love listening to stories about people's bad cars because we've all been there, and it's so funny.
I've had over, I think, 25 cars going. From a teenager, it was because my dad would be like, get a car. He's like, here, I got you a car, some piece of shit car.
That's how my dad was.
And then another, he would take it away or something, and I'd be like, no, I'm gonna get you a better
my old
one.
man my old man used to get invited to like dealership Christmas parties and stuff because he would buy all these lemons, you know, that he'd just be like, oh, we'll fix it up or that kind of thing. But I'm like, Dad, we don't know how to fix this. But we would always have to do like I remember one time we got a van. And
I loved vans as a kid.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was 6 kids.
We would play in the van in the summer. We'd all be sweating, and my friends, but we're like on a, I don't know, a space shuttle or something, dude. But
it's the best.
We're
it's
dying of sweat, you know.
Yeah.
We probably almost had heat exhaustion.
And this van was like previously a better like van, a higher model. So the middle row was not like couch like bucket seats. It was like 2 captain chairs.
Yeah, that's what we had.
Well, but the problem with that is it meant there weren't enough seatbelts for all the kids. Even though we could fit the other 4 along the back row, there was only 3 seatbelts. So my dad's like, not a big deal. Like he was saying crazy stuff. Like I'll catch them if they go forward. You know, I'll grab them. And my mom is like, I'm not buying a car where. So him and the salesman installed their own seatbelt. not the garage shop. Him and the salesman installed, and we drove off with a handmade seatbelt off the lot.
It's a dude thing, and I feel I do that now as a. We're both dads. You have, how many kids?
I got 3 kids.
You got 3. I got 1 a stepson, but I feel like no, we can make like okay.
We'll make it work.
Yesterday, Jessica was telling me we need curtains, right? Because we have these windows, and one of them, the baby is by the couch, and the baby always breaks all the blinds. So I replaced them. And
the baby grabs it and pulls them down. Okay.
Yeah, pulls them down, and these bottom blinds are broken. People can see through.
Yeah.
And I bought new blinds, broke them again within a week, right? So then she's like, let's get some blinds. And I was like, okay, we'll get 1 blind for this window. And she's like, that's going to look stupid if we have one.
She wants them all to match.
She wants
in the whole house.
And I'm like, how about we just get 1 blind for the single? Because I think like a dude, like, all right, this is a problem.
Same exact. I've had that same exact conversation. I was like,
what's the point?
And Jess did that, and I'm like,
oh, your wife is Jessica too?
Yeah. And I'm like, we're buying. Like when you add up, like we own a bungalow in Oak Park. I'm like, we're buying 36 fucking blinds, you know, that fix this 1 window, but it's got to match everything. And she, like my wife, she's not OCD. I mean, I guess that's just how women are. Women like to see a uniform pattern within a house, you know. Whereas I don't give a fuck, you know. Yeah.
I said this the other. I thought about this. Like if it was a dude, was up to doing the decorating for a wedding, it'd be like.
Oh God!
What is it? It was like
the entire industry would collapse overnight. Wedding planners, everything like that.
Well, you've seen there's like a meme. It's like it's a guy and a PlayStation and no furniture. Like, you lived before? When did you get married?
I got married in 2007.
Like you were okay. So you were. How long did you live alone for a while? Or?
I did. Yeah. I mean, like I was. You know what I was just thinking about in my head when you were talking about that is like when my wife met me, I had a like down cheap comforter pinned over my window because I slept so late with pins. I just had like big pins that I hammered into the window, like crucified this blanket over And I was just like, because I would usually sleep until like 2 p.m. on the weekends and so on, and like that's what my wife was probably like, this looks like a fucking flop house, you know.
I didn't have a pillow for 2 years at one point. Because it's like I would roll up either a hoodie or something that I was because I stayed at my friend's house, and there wasn't an extra pillow for me.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, I just grabbed a hoodie, and that for 2 years I had no pillow.
Well, and I think it's become,
I feel like it's practical. Like, what do I need a pillow for?
I agree. I think it though does create this like loop back cycle where it's like when you're in your 20s, women's apartments have to just keep getting better and better because you always have to go back to her place. Because she's like, I'm not going. Like, they'll come to your place once, and they're like, nope, not again, you know?
Sheets. Did you have new sheets? I didn't have
She would say I didn't change my sheets often enough. She was right, you know?
Ever, I think. Something would have to happen.
I would have to start itching or something like that. I'm like, okay, this is time, you know? Or I would, like, somebody vomited on my bed or something like that. You know, it was some sort of biological disaster. And I had, we always had random dudes. I lived in
that sounds funny.
One of the biggest apartments you would ever see in Chicago. Like it was a 3-bedroom. We had 2 living rooms, one with the bar. Our one living room was like as big as this whole apartment, and we paid dirt cheap because it was like 2 inches from the red line. And
okay, so you had
nobody really wanted to live with that kind of noise in their backyard, but we didn't care.
Like 7.
Yeah, and it was so cheap. But what we would always end up. We would randomly meet these people. Like we met these 2 dudes who ran out of money. They were from London, traveling the U.S., and they ended up just like staying on our couch for 8 months. You know, and like immigration is looking for them and everything. We met them at a bar, but our apartment was so big. We would have just these people. Like I had like a couple drinking buddies from Cleveland that moved here, and like. One thought he was going to get married. His girl left him like 24 hours after they moved to Chicago. She's like, no.
That's funny.
Yeah. And then, so he's like, well, I need a place to stay. He ended up living with us for like a year on the couch, you know.
The guy, you didn't know Jeremy, right? The guy in Wisconsin. That's just a story. You didn't know that guy. The guy who locked himself in a quick trip.
So in my book, I sometimes talk about like national news stories that remind me of my buddies. But no, I never met that dude. Jeremy Van Erck, I think was his name.
Yeah, I looked him up. If you don't know, Jeremy Van Erck locked himself at a quick. Have you been all right? I used to talk shit about Quick Trip, but I live in Wisconsin now. It's pretty legit, dude. Quick Trips are great.
Yeah.
They have food. Everybody's nice. Quick Trip is great. It's the only good thing about Wisconsin. No, I'm kind of an elitist when it comes to Illinois, like the food or whatever. I don't like, and I'm not that big.
Chicago. I think you could argue Chicago's the best city in America. So it's hard not to have a certain level of condescension when you go to other places.
Like the food is you can't beat. I don't feel like in the Chicagoland area, pizza, the food like you can't. Like you can't. I feel like outside of here, where can you go gyro? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a Chicago. I think they were made or like this style.
I think it was made in Greektown. Like there's a lot of like Greek American cuisine that was actually invented in Chicago. You know what? I think I just recently learned. I think fortune cookies were invented in Chicago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Chinatown here in Chicago.
I know burritos were like L.A. or something like that. Like it wasn't in Mexico. Yeah. Justin, is this gyro place down the street any good? Have you tried it? Yeah, wherever it's at, because I'm just sorry. I'm thinking about food after.
Dude, it's not.
It's okay. I'm not going.
Do you still live out near Berwyn?
I am Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Oh, you're Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Yeah,
all right, so I can't
right
give you any advice.
But
you
Berwyn,
used to live in Berwyn, right?
No, but I loved going to Cigars.
For some reason, I thought maybe that's what we were talking about, and I got that in my head.
Cigars was like.
Oh, dude, Cigars is the best.
One of my favorite places to go. Yeah. I love their wings. I used to love their mic.
Yeah,
I don't know if you did their mic before, but it was.
It's chaos.
It's
chaos. There was a dude there one time when I started. We wouldn't do it too often because I was living in the city. And I remember when you first moved to Chicago, you're like, Berwyn? Like, it sounded like you were going out to Iowa.
I love Berwyn.
You know? No, and I do too now, but it's like when you're new to a city and you don't have a car, it seems so far away.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But anyways, I'm doing the mic, and there's this dude drinking. I've never seen anything like this in my life. He had some sort of wound on his head. he had no hair, and he had a like a tube coming out of the top of his skull, going into a bag on his side. It was like it was draining fluid or something. And I just remember thinking, there's no fucking way this guy should be drinking.
My mother-in-law might have something like that.
Okay,
but she doesn't drink.
Yeah, there's no way you're allowed to drink if you're having
a few pills
fluid actively drained from your brain. There's no way you're allowed to be drinking on whatever injury he had. And just
hardcore.
That bar is hardcore. That bar is crazy. Like for any listeners out there who live near the area.
Shout out to Ronnie. I gotta get him I gotta message him again.
Oh, he's crazy. He's the best. They do something that I find hilarious. Their bad Yelp reviews, they blow up to poster size and put it on the wall.
Oh, I didn't see those.
Yeah.
But so I was over there. If it was it's one of those mics where you go, everybody's drunk.
Yep.
You're gonna get heckled.
Yep.
Was the devil there when you did it? I remember you
that old bouncer.
No, like if you look in the corner, there is a.
Oh, the devil.
There's
I'm
a
sorry.
Saint, There's a winged devil you're looking at. Ronnie's an ex. But I remember it's one of those places where I left, and it was a few times where it's like I wasn't doing well. Mm-hmm. I was like, let me try something new, and then it didn't work. I was like, all right, let me go to the solid stuff. That didn't. Then that didn't go. And then when that happens, it's like, and then it would just dropped. And I remember I left, and it's like, oh my God, am I good? It's but it's fun. It's such a.
It is fun, and Ronnie treats the comics really well, and he makes sure you have fun. And you just have to like. It's one of those things where you can't take it too seriously, and you just have to know what you're going into. But yeah, just everyone there is an absolute character. It's hilarious.
How'd you lose that car? Well, you got a job,
the 87
right?
Cavalier?
No. How'd you lose? We'll go back to the Cavalier, but you
that car.
You lost a company car within 2 weeks at this.
Yeah, that's a pretty funny story. That was when I worked at Ernst & Young, which is a
big, that's an accounting firm.
Yeah, a big accounting firm. But back then they also had an IT wing. Okay. Actually, the collapse of Anderson Consulting, which was behind Enron. Mm-hmm. Created a federal law where accounting firms can't have IT consulting anymore, because what Anderson was doing is they were selling their own IT wing services at huge markups. So anyhow, they were like, okay, if you're giving financial advice, you can't also give IT advice, blah, blah, blah. But I worked for Ernst & Young before that division was forced, and we're in Dallas, and you cannot like walk anywhere in Dallas. You have to drive everywhere.
Oh,
really?
It's just it's
like it's possibly the least pedestrian friendly city I've ever been into.
Okay. Is this like a Texas LA? Because I know LA is like a bitch.
Dallas is even worse than LA. It's like, I would say 4 or 5 times worse than LA in terms of like pedestrian friendliness. And so every time we would get a per diem back then where we could spend $70 on food or drinks every day. Or drinks. So what we would do is we would actually go to the grocery store and get the ingredients to make like pasta for like $3, and we would all eat it together. It was like me and like 7 other computer engineers, and then we would spend the rest of our $65 on booze every single day. And we were also allowed to expense as many cabs as we wanted. So they're like,
there was no limit? You could just...
this is what they got us at. And they're like, okay, listen, you guys are spending so much money on cabs every night when you go out drinking. And we're like, well, we can't walk anywhere in this city. And they're like, all right, we're going to rent you a car. And I'm like, no big deal. Okay. No big deal. That night we take it out. We get drunk. We forget where we park it. It gets towed. So then we have to go to like... We report it stolen. We get a call from like Dallas PD that it's actually in a lot in Irving, Texas, and we got to go pick that up. It ended up costing us like $700 to get it out of there. So we ended up spending 3 times more money by losing this car than we would have on taxi rides. And then they did let us go back to just ordering cabs every time. They're like, okay, you guys are... That was a crazy thing about
then you got fired?
No, they never fired me. Dude, the crazy thing about the 90s with IT and web development is that it was they were all making so much money, these firms, and there was such a shortage of workers that they're like, okay, I guess we'll just build a client for cabs.
So, do you still own... Slammable Dick Caves or no?
I do not own that domain anymore.
It was
Slammable
Slammable
Dick Caves.
What would you guys start drinking that night? What was your first Actually, before we get to that, what was your first drink that you remember? You remember your first time getting drunk? I remember mine. Mine was later. I was like 18 or 19.
Oh, I was much younger than that.
Because I didn't drink as a teenager. My dad would try to give me alcohol, and I'd be like, this is disgusting.
I didn't get drunk till high school.
Okay.
But like the first time I tried alcohol was like in grade school. Like we snuck a little bit off.
Mine was Kahlua, I think, as a child.
Yeah, that's like, I think, the kind of thing you try, that you find in the liquor cabinet.
Actually, my first drink ever, I was 5 years old. I was walking out, and then my dad was with his friends in the back. This is in L.A., in the backyard. We lived out in our grandma's basement. And I'm coming to the back, and my dad's like, here, take this. And I'm like, I'm 5.
Yeah.
And he gives me a shot of mezcal. I take it as a 5-year-old, immediately blow chunks all over. So that's my first. And I didn't like booze for many. I didn't start drinking until about I was 20. But
maybe that's what he was going for. Maybe it was like a good parental move. Like, I'm going to make you think this is disgusting.
It worked. Were you a good kid?
I was relatively well behaved, but I didn't get good grades, which would frustrate my parents. But yeah, I wouldn't cause trouble.
Are your siblings drinkers?
They are. Yeah.
Okay. Your dad drinker?
No, he wasn't too much of a drinker.
Okay.
No.
Well, both parents are Irish?
Yes.
Okay, but your dad wasn't a drinker. No, mine was a drinker, but I didn't, like I said.
Yeah.
What was your first drink? And then the first time you got drunk?
Well, we would, like in high school, we started drinking regularly, and none of us liked the taste of beer at the time. So we would get like Mad Dog.
Mad Dog 2020?
Yeah, we would get Mad Dog, or there was like this cheap champagne called, I think,
Booners?
Boons, Boone Farms, I think
Farms.
So it would be like that kind of stuff, which now I think if I tried, it would be the most disgusting taste I've probably ever had.
What do you drink now? Are you a gentleman now, or are you still blacking out?
I mean, I don't black out as much as I used to. I try to pace myself a little bit better. I mean, sometimes but if I'm at a party where I'm having a lot of fun and everyone's having fun, and it's kind of like, for lack of a better word, appropriate for the scene I'm in, I'll still get blackout drunk. But I don't want to be like the kind of guy where everyone else is only having a drink or two and I'm a mess, So like, now my drinking is like a lot based on the signals I'm getting from other people and how far they're going.
I know that now, and you know why I know that?
Yeah.
It happened. I was on not a date. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a date. It was a date with this girl. It was in Pilsen or Humboldt Park, something. No, Humboldt Park, and I think I met her in Plenty of Fish.
All right.
And then I remember we were both drinking at a bar. And did you ever see, what's that movie? There's an Indian guy and they're cops, Super Troopers, right? He does a scene where he's super drunk.
Oh yeah, like the fake like highway patrol funny. That movie's called Broken Lizard. That's that comedy troupe. Yeah, so they're great.
It was a scene where he's super drunk, but he thinks in his head like, oh, I'm doing okay.
Yes.
Which I thought was happening.
Yeah.
I'm talking to the girl. I'm like, in my head,
yeah.
I'm this suave guy talking to her, and then this is where I realized I was wasted. As I'm walking away to go to the bathroom, I slur. I do a little bit of a slur, and I'm like, and my brain's like, wait a second, slur? You shouldn't be slurring. You're suave gentleman controlling your liquor. And then I look at her beer. She's on her first beer, and it's about a little bit under halfway. And I just realized I'm like on my 12th drink.
Oh wow!
And I was like, fuck. Did that just happen? Yeah. And then it was over. We never met, but she still had me drive her home. And then she was like,
cabs are expensive.
Yeah, and it was before Uber, drive her home, and then I did have sex with the hooker that night.
Well, you had that many drinks. You gotta have a good,
a European
gotta get
one.
something out of it.
And I was like, but it would happen a lot. Like when you lost your car. When I lost my car, couldn't find it. Ended up in is it Boys Town? I was in Boys Town, and this hot chick went up to me and started talking to me. He's like, hey, you wanna go to your car? And I was like, sure. But then if you're in Boys Town and it's a hot chick going up to you, she's probably not a chick. So then I started sobering up, and I realized like this is not. But I was like, all right, it's too late. It is what it is. But okay, first time you were drunk. Do you remember that? Like when it
that was like
first time it hit you, and you're like, man,
that was like in high school.
Feels good.
It was the first time I ever blacked out, and it was probably the most significant blackout of my life in terms of how much I forgot. I think we started with wine coolers, actually, like Bartles and James wine cooler, or Seagram's or something like that. And then we went to a party where they had a keg. They had a keg of hams, and I just got annihilated. Like annihilated.
Hams.
Yeah.
Is that a Wisconsin beer? Or
It is a Wisconsin
I see it a lot
beer.
in Wisconsin.
It is you used to be able, when I was I went to the Akron U for 2 years. When I was at Akron U, you could get a keg of hams for $28. So it was just like, we would buy kegs of hams just at the start of a weekend, even if we weren't throwing a party, just because like this is the cheapest way to get beer, you know, and we would just drink as much as we could. And I got so annihilated that night, and I just wake up in a tub. High school. I wake up in a tub the next day, and they have to tell me everything that happened. That we were coming back on a highway. I was puking out the window. I guess they took me to a rest area where a state highway patrolman showed up, and they had to be like, "No, we're just taking care of him." And I had no recollection of any of that. And it was like a little bit scary, you know, to be like, wow.
That's your first blackout, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one is like...
And I feel like I've never had a blackout like that since. Like I have had nights where it's gone too far, and there's like particular parts of the conversation I don't remember, or...
so that's your only blackout.
But I don't, like, I've probably only had like straight up blackouts where I wake up and I don't know how I got home. Like I probably haven't had those since like age 25, like 20 years ago, you know, like I'm
trying to think. So my blackouts were, I remember this is when it was close to when I kind of got it, because I didn't drink in 2019, I stopped drinking for a year, and now I have it under control, but I stopped that whole year. But one of them, before I went into my rock bottom, was I was at a bar. It was in Beach Park, Illinois. My buddy was the owner. I was talking to this girl her name was Geeks.
Okay.
Right? And then I'm talking to her, and I was like, why do they call you Geeks? She's like, because I like getting geeked, which means doing cocaine.
Oh, okay.
Or getting high. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. And then I remember I was talking to her. It's like, I remember this, talking to her for 20 minutes. And then I wake up in my car in Wisconsin. Now I'm in Kenosha. So I'm in Beach Park, Illinois. Now I'm in Kenosha. It's 7 in the morning. I'm opening up. And it's actually it was right across the street where I used to do this open mic with a cop named Mike Salas. He's ex-Kenosha cop. He used to run the cop. I think he's going to do the podcast in a few weeks. I just messaged him this morning, which is ironic. And I remember I woke up and I was like, oh, shit. I don't know how I got there. Drove.
Were you in the driver's seat when you woke up? Okay.
Yes. So then I start driving home, stop by a gas station, get like something to drink or eat, get home, sleep for an hour, and then go to work, because I don't work till 10:30. Right? So 10:37. And then I remember the next day I asked her, I was like, what happened last night? I was like, oh yeah, you went out, you hung out with this dude. And I asked the dude, and I'm like, what happened? He's like, you went with that chick. So I don't know what happened. So the joke between us is that there's the one guy, like, he fucking raped me or something like that. We make fun of it. There's a clip I put up on it, but I don't think he knows about it. I'm still friends with him. But he did, because I remember I went the next day to pick up my ID and my debit card. And then I was like, hey, and I texted the bartender. I was like, how much is my tab? He's like, oh, no. The owner, my friend, he was like, he took care of your tab. And that's the guy that allegedly, he told me, and I was like, and that was the beginning where I was like, all right. It wasn't my rock bottom, but it was like close.
A little scary.
To it. Yeah. The second time I ever had sex, I remember, not the second time I had sex, but I was with a girl, and the second time we had sex, I remember the next day, I just remember waking up, and I was like, holy shit. And she's there, and I had to leave. I caddied, golf caddy. So I drove to go caddy, and then and I remember messaging her, like, did we have sex? She's like, yeah. And I was like, oh. And then she was like, oh, that's why it was so different than the first time. I guess I blacked out. And then she told me she was on top, and she looked down, and I fell asleep.
Yeah.
And I passed out. But people don't understand, like, backing out. Like, if you remember it, like, it's weird because you're there talking to somebody. It's like I think David Tell says a time travel, and then you're over here, and it's so it's weird. It happened a lot. I haven't blacked out in a while, sort of in a while. Now it's like I don't have a blackout. I remember 80 to 90% of the night, but if I drink a lot, that last 10% is super fuzzy, and then it's like...
Do you know who Jonah Jerkins is?
Yeah, he lost his car. He was on the podcast.
He co-produces the Blackout Diaries with me, and he has a phrase that I really like for that, where he calls it Swiss cheesing. Where like most of the night is in your head, but there's holes that you just can't place, you know? And that's more what it's like.
Justin, have you blacked out before? Yeah. Have you blacked out recently? I don't black out anymore, right? Did you have...
I mean, it's a lesson you only learn the hard way, you know?
Yeah, it's... But I've never been... Okay, you've never gotten a DUI. You've been arrested?
Never been arrested. Never got a DUI.
Damn it. Yeah. Well, I've never been arrested drunk, but I've been arrested. But I've never been arrested drunk, and I've never gotten a DUI. I never. I'm also happy drunk. And you,
I also don't like. That was the main reason why I moved to Chicago, was to get away from drinking and driving. Like everyone, where I'm from in Ohio, everyone drinks and drives. Dude,
Wisconsin.
Do you know in Wisconsin? Do you know in Wisconsin, it's the only state in the union where your first DUI, if you don't kill anyone, can't involve jail time. Like that's like part of their constitution. Like DUIs are so weirdly normalized there.
So okay, I'm gonna add an allegedly to this story, right?
Right.
So maybe a month or two ago, I went out with my girlfriend, and then I was pretty blasted, right? And then we're heading home, and then my car has an auto drive thing. So then, now in the back of my head, it's like I drink a little bit more than I would, or I drive sometimes when I normally wouldn't in a regular car because I don't have to drive. The car does it for you. So then, this dude, Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin cop pulls me over. In my little tumbler right here, it's full of vodka, vodka and ice, right? Okay. And when we get pulled over, I know I reek of alcohol. And then Jessica's in the passenger seat. I open the windows immediately because I know it's like fuck.
Get some air going.
Get some air. Yeah. It smells.
Yeah.
And whatever. He's asking me, "Where you going?" "Oh, just down the street." We went out. I always throw this in. I was like coming back, at a comedy show. I always throw the comedy show part because I did do a comedy show. Then we went out and then we're heading home. And I'm like, in my head, I was like, there's no way this guy is not giving me a DUI. Like, I'm fucking wasted. I reek of booze. I have a tumbler full of vodka here. There's no way he doesn't smell it.
Yeah.
All right, get home safe, guys. And I was like, in my head, I was like, this is such a Wisconsin thing. Like, I was like, no way. And I'm like, I was like, really?
It all depends on the city. Like, Chicago cops are hilarious. Like, they don't give a fuck. I have friends who have stories drunk going down the wrong way on a one-way street without their headlights on, and the cop is like, park it right now. And like sometimes the cop will take their license. I'm taking your license. You're gonna come pick it up tomorrow. And
because they have shit to worry about.
They have
in Chicago.
actual stuff to do. Yeah.
I was coming to the podcast a few weeks ago, and there was a cop, and his lights flashed behind me, and it was like I was shocked. I was like, this has never happened in Chicago. Like when I'm in the suburbs, I'm freaked out. You know what I mean? Even now, like if I'm sober, I'm like, I didn't have anything to drink, but it's just in my head.
Any town with sheriffs or that kind of stuff, yeah. I'm the same.
It's ridiculous. But I was here and I was like, dude, I can't believe this is going. And then, no, I don't. There's another cop in front of me. They pull up next to each other. They communicate and they drive off because they're going somewhere. So I've never been pulled over in Chicago.
I think I saw what it takes for them to just pull you over off a moving violation. I was at. Have you ever been to the Paper Machete, that Saturday show? It's at the Green Mill. It's like, I think it's one of the best live shows you can ever see.
I think I've been to Green Mill.
It's a legendary jazz bar in Uptown. Okay. It's, I think is it Lawrence and Broadway? Great bar, great show. Anyhow, I'm outside and my buddy's having a cigarette, and this like this crew of like Polish roofers or something and they don't give a fuck. Like I've always said the craziest people in Chicago are Polish roofers. Like they just they're hanging off 4-story roofs.
They're the Mexicans of Europe. My best friend's Polish.
Yeah. I mean, they work their asses off. They have no fear, anything. I once saw.
No, it's good. It's good. I
saw one guy get one time. My landlord, when we were living in the city, hired them to like fix the gutters. The dude didn't have a side mirror, and he had taped a machete to like the side mirror like holder, and that was like he was just looking off that. It was like, well, I can see backwards, and then if I get in a fight, I got this here. But anyhow,
he's like, what problem? But this machete, I see.
This cop is waiting to hang a left onto Broadway. This roofing van, light goes yellow, then red. This roofing van honks at the guy that didn't go into a red, passes him. The cop is trying to complete the left. He honks at the cop. He clearly didn't look to see it was a cop, and then you see him put his arm out the window and flick off the cop. And the cop, you could see the cop. The cop had like, God damn it, I got to pull this asshole over.
He doesn't want to. He has shit to worry
about. No, he didn't want to, but he's like, you just flicked me off in front of a 6-way intersection full of people. I can't let you get away with that.
Mr. Burns, what was it? You reminded me Did you see that episode? This is something you did reminded me of this episode in The Simpsons where Homer sends that letter. He's like that F you to Mr. Burns.
Oh, yeah.
And then he regrets sending it. So then he tries to go and take it out of the post, the blue box. I forget what it's called. The mailbox.
Yeah.
Then he goes to the post office and I'm like, oh, hi, I'm Mr. Burns. I'm here to pick up my mail. And they're like, okay, Mr. Burns, what's your first name? I don't know. It reminds me of you were in an interview. The maiden name, right? Is that what happened? They asked you
so it wasn't an interview. I know what story you're talking about. So we were fixated on getting fake IDs in high school.
Oh, I got to tell you mine in a second, but yeah, go ahead.
And
something similar happened to me.
So we made fake IDs, and we would get caught, and they would get confiscated. And I was like, well, you know what? Rather than making fake IDs, let's...
This is before this is after the guy with the picture and the McLovin thing. Okay,
after all that, so I'm like, let's just get real IDs from the Department of Transportation in Ohio. And I'll just take somebody else's birth certificate and social security card in. They'll take my photo, and I'll be that person. And we were at a Bob Evans where, like, they kept... The wait staff would be like, what are you doing out here? What are you doing? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were our chef. You look just like our chef. And I was like, how old is he? And I'm like, 21. I'm like, can we talk to him? And I paid this chef at Bob Evans. I think I was 19 at the time. I think like $60 to borrow his birth certificate and social security card for a few hours. And I came back the next day and got it. And I'm sitting down to get my photo. And they go, I can't remember his exact name, but let's say it was like Brian Wauburn. They're like, okay, Mr. Wauburn, and just tell me your mom's maiden name, which I did not look at on the birth certificate. And I pretended, I look up at the board and I see the fee for getting a license. I'm like, are you telling me with my tax dollars I got to pay $12 for a license? And she's like, yes. And I go, I don't have that money on me right now. I'll be right back. And I just ran out of there. And I wish they had taken a photo when I heard that question, because I almost shit my pants, the panic I had in me.
So almost a similar thing happened to me, but you did it for booze at the time. I didn't drink. I was like 16 or something. I was a pervert. I did it to try to go to strip clubs and buy pornography.
All right.
So because this is
so you only had to bump yourself up 2 years, right?
To 18. To 18. Okay. So what I did was I hit my aunt in LA, got me a fake ID. So I had a California fake ID, right? So I remember I was at the DNV to renew my thing. As I'm going to renew, I'm pulling out something I need. Like I pull out my wallet, the fake ID falls down. Mm-hmm. The lady at the DMA sees a fake ID, confiscates
she
it from
takes
me.
It. Yeah.
She takes it. I get put in a hold.
You're kidding.
Now I have to prove who I am because of the fake ID. So I have to go to the Social Security office. I had to wait in line to get a printout.
Oh, man.
I had to bring a yearbook with me on it. I had to bring like 4 different things to prove who I am.
Oh, yeah, because you don't have bills or anything like that at that age.
No,
yeah.
So it was like yearbook. I had to get
I always find that hilarious, because when you do go to like these kind of places, they're like, we need a ComEd bill. I'm like, I could make that off my printer.
Nowadays, nowadays it's like ridiculous. But the other thing I did was I wanted to buy porn. I told this before the podcast, and I was like, you had to buy porn at the time.
Yeah.
So my friend,
you had to go to physical stores
to buy it.
Yeah.
So then I was like, my friend broke his leg in playing football in high school. And I was like, actually, he designed his logo for the podcast. So he breaks his leg, right? He's an electrician, but he's a good graphic design or artist. He breaks his left, Art of Othel, sorry. He breaks his leg, and I look at his leg, and I was like, that's it. That was my moment. I was like, I have an idea. He was like, what? Here, we're going to go to the mall. We go to the mall in Gurnee. We go up to the mall to get a wheelchair. When you have a broken leg, they give you a wheelchair. They give us a wheelchair. Immediately, we go to the front of the mall, throw the wheelchair in my trunk, drive up like towards Kenosha. There's a porn store across from this strip club called Baby Dolls, who I'll add this part in. With the same guy, my buddy, we try to go. He went when he was 18. I was 17. I was riding on a ticket. So what I did is I erased, that yellow ticket, the Illinois one. I tried to.
Oh yeah, you mean when they used to confiscate your license and they would give you a ticket for your ID? Yeah, that was always. So they quit doing that shortly after I moved here, but that was always hilarious to me. That was the first thing I thought of. I was 25 when this happened to me. They're like, no, this will suffice as your license. I'm like, if I'm fucking underage, this is all I'm doing. I'm just saying this is my ticket. Yeah.
So what I said, I try to erase I'm 84.
The date of birth.
Yeah, and change it to 83 or to put me to be. My thing was being 18.
Of course.
I care less about 21 at the time. Pervert before booze.
Yeah.
I became a drunk afterwards. But that didn't work. But anyways, now we roll up to the porn store. Like again, I get in, I'm rolling in. I grab one or two. I don't want to, we're crazy. And I go up to the register. I'm going. And I told you, it's, the last time I went, the guy, as soon as I walked in, he's like, get out.
Same clerk you're seeing that night.
I don't remember the same clerk,
okay,
but the same
whoever
store.
It was. Okay, all right. Gotcha.
Get out. And that happened to me when I first got that ID. I used it in LA because I got in LA.
Yeah.
So that day I went to this strip club. My other aunt, the Chola aunt, dropped me off. My mom's still she always talks about my mom getting mad at her for taking her 6-year-old son to strip club.
I could kind of understand.
Whatever. Even though when I was 18, my mom got me a cake with a naked chick. Well, it gets weird.
Yeah.
But then I walked into that strip club to kick me out. Like, that's what I was obsessed with, getting into these strip clubs. I was a virgin. So then it's like a Porky's type of thing.
Yeah.
And then I get in, I put the 2 movies in there. The guy, he puts it in, he gives me the movies, I buy, and we would share the movie and possibly watch it together. We didn't do masturbate together. But it was weird. At the time, it's like, when we first I remember
cinema's best enjoyed publicly.
Yeah,
and
it
together.
was weird. And the reason I got the movie I got, because at the time it was Vivid. In the back of the porno magazines, there'd be reviews, and this movie got high reviews from Vivid, whatever Hustler, whatever magazine, and there was clowns in it.
They found holes we didn't even know existed.
Yeah, and I remember and that was the first time. That was the first.
That's hilarious.
And that was VHS. I was telling you, that was VHS. The other VHS thing was, we were all golfers. We caddied. Yeah. And then we had this great idea. There was a point where allegedly we would steal pins or signs from golf courses. So there's a course that I live by. It was actually I work in golf now. It's actually one of my customers.
Okay.
So then we went to go steal the pin. But what happened was
the pin is like what they put in the hole.
The stick and the flag.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So we went to go steal it, and same camera, VHS, we record it, and it had the night mode, and I remember seeing it. What my friend did is he took the pin out, and he defecated into the cup. And I wish I could get this tape, because you could see it.
Oh, man.
You could see it drop. You could see the lug come down, and this is in the winter, so it comes down, and he had a roll of toilet paper, and we were just kind of scared to want to get pulled over. It was such a rush. instead of taking the toilet paper, he grabs a whole roll, tries to do a wipe with the roll, throws it, and runs back. So obviously he should have lowered his pants. So I remember my one buddy has that flag stick. He has all the flags.
I think you got to find these tapes that you guys made. This is a good assignment.
There's one more tape I want to find. I'll do a quick drunk one. I was pretty wasted, and I was with some friends, and my friend went to this girl's house in the city, and they were gonna, probably hook up, but it's a studio, so they're on the bed, which is on the floor, because she moved to the city, barely able to afford living in the city. So there's no AC. I'm sweating, and I'm drunk. So I just start walking around naked, the apartment. And I remember I was in the bottom. I was like, hey. And she was laughing at this. I was like, the lights are off. You start. We'll switch off. She's not going to know the difference. She's laughing. I see her a few years later. She's like, oh, my God, that was so funny in my apartment. And it was like, I don't know. I get away. I'm not a bad guy, so stuff that maybe other people wouldn't get away with. It's like, to me, it's like, oh, it's Giovanni. That's funny. Yeah. And I remember I took a shower. I was like, this is hot. So I went in her room, took a shower, got her books, threw them all down. But my friend recorded me walking around naked, and I was working out at the time. He's like, Giovanni, I wish I could find it. I think it's one of my old computers. I want to find it because I was in the best shape of my life, and I was packed, not abs. I'm Mexican. I have tamale.
That could be your new, that could be the new profile picture for the podcast or something.
Can I show you one video really quick?
I don't mind. Yeah.
Where is it? We're Blackout. Yeah. I did Blackout for it. Can you go to YouTube really quick? I totally forgot about this video. I blocked it a lot, now that I think about it.
You were going to retract your earlier statement that you haven't done it?
No reason. The last 2 years I haven't. I've done the 10% end of the night.
Gotcha.
I know her. Anyways, so type in Giovanni, Jhovany, Wasted. Let's see if this.
You're gonna be the #1 hit.
Let's see if it's still on YouTube. Oh, you put an extra A in there. An H.
Giovanni Wasted.
Go back, just VA.
That'll impress me because I feel Giovanni is not a totally
Jhovany.
It's not a totally uncommon name.
Now a lot of Puerto Ricans have it. Ooh, add an H. Go back. NY.
Jehovah's Witnesses Wasted.
Hey, let's see if it comes up. It is. Let's go to the first one.
This isn't you, is it?
Oh yeah, this is years ago.
How many views does this have?
I don't remember.
Oh man.
That's a Tagore watch I had. I got stolen.
And you're trying to take a poop.
You okay, bro?
Oh, they've written dick. Oh, they've wrote
Stolichna.
yeah, they've put penises on your. So you've already passed out, and now you're awake.
I think I want a churro.
You want to have some poop?
Oh, Becky's a whore. This girl, I think I was talking. Becky's a whore. They're trying to get me to slap myself. Oh, remember those affliction stuff? Oh,
Yeah,
that's what grosses me out about this video is that shirt.
Male friends are so great.
Allegedly they peed on me, but I don't believe it.
They probably didn't pee on you.
They say they did, but I think I would have smelled it.
Yeah.
Fruit of the Loom underwear I used to wear. I do Calvin Klein now. White socks. I only do black socks now.
Oh man.
Oh! I woke up in the living room. I did black out this night. I woke up in the living room.
Well, you clearly had previously blacked out if they're writing penises on your face.
Stolichna and MGDs as a chaser. So I don't drink Stoli. Whenever I've drank Stoli, I've had a few where it's completely, where I completely blacked out.
Yeah.
Okay, quick one. Did you ever find out if Bob Dopel, was it Bob Dopel's wife, found out what happened?
So, all right, I have a couple funny things to tell you about that. No. So the real person, whose name is not Bob Doppel.
Oh, okay. You changed it for the book, obviously.
I changed it for the book and for So I changed it for the book based on comments I got from my editor. And when I was on Comedy Central, I told that story. And I originally was going to tell the story with the real name, the person's identity, I assumed. And the lawyers were like, we will send you home right now if you use that guy's real name.
Was the company not a real name either? It was a cool name.
The company name I did keep. They're like, you can keep the company name. Because I think they did a search and the company was defunct now at this point.
Obviously you ruined his
Yeah, but they're
career.
like, yeah, probably. I didn't think of that. But they're like, you can't use his real name. So I had at my day job, and I've had the same day job now for 20 years. I work part-time doing computer consulting. Mm-hmm. And I would every now and again be with the meeting with the Detroit team, and they all had hilarious fake ID names, but they were just American businessmen. And one of them was Bob Doppel. And so I reach out to him. We had never met, but we worked for the same company. I'm like, Bob, I'm a comedian. We were in one meeting a couple of years ago. I've just always loved your name. It just sounds like if I was making a fake ID, it would be that name. It sounds like an American businessman. I'm going to be on Comedy Central tomorrow, and I need a name. Can I use your name? And he's like, oh, that's hilarious. Best of luck. I'll do it. Go ahead. And then so I also used Bob Doppel's name in the book, This is the crazy thing. I got transferred to a new team at my day job, and I now work for Bob Doppel.
You work for that Bob Doppel?
I work for that Bob Doppel that gave me the name that I use in the book. The real name is a different... you know what? I'm going to say it here because I don't think he'll ever find me. The real name, which is also a great name, is Ed Mitzen.
Ed Mitzen.
Ed Mitzen is the real identity, I assume.
He let you use the ID so you could see Hugh Lewis in the news at the pharmacy convention.
Correct.
Where you went to an after party.
And walked off a roof.
And then broke a few bones.
Broke my back in 3 places and shattered my heel.
Walked off a roof. And you know what? I learned a new word before. It was called that thing that's on top with the columns. I didn't know what the hell that was until I heard it.
Oh, yeah.
Basico or...
Yeah.
I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
I never knew what it was called.
It's like a half porch in between 2 levels. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've read the book.
I was listening to the book, and then... do you have any pictures of the car you can send me, or the Cavalier?
I'll send it to you. Yeah. I'll send it to you later tonight.
Yeah. The Cavalier.
So we spray painted Chief Wahoo
I want
on
to
the
see
hood,
that.
and we had Go Tribe on the sides. And dude, when you drove that around Cleveland, it was like a Roman chariot or something. Like everyone would just like honk, like thumbs up, let you, like it would be hilarious is, whenever a highway has to merge for construction, I'll be like, no, we're just going to stay in this lane to the last fucking car and they're going to let us right in. And they always would in Cleveland, because they're like, this is the greatest car I've ever seen in my life.
And I forgot that Manny played for the Indians until
Manny Ramirez?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I know we got ads, so I don't want to go too much into a deep dive. But people, I don't know if you're a big baseball guy. I'm a huge baseball fan. The 1995 Indians were so good.
Quick Indian story after you, and then we're done.
The 1995, and I was always just, because I talk about this in the book, I was always against the name Indians. I'm glad we're the Guardians now. But
they changed the name? When did this happen?
Yeah, last year, dude, was the first year as the Guardians. They should have, they needed to change the name, and they should have dumped Chief Wahoo decades ago. But the 95 Indians were so strong that Manny Ramirez and Jim Thome batted.
Oh, Thome was there too.
Thome was their third baseman. Manny Ramirez and Jim Thome batted 6th and 7th in that lineup.
Oh, I don't remember that.
They had Kenny Lofton, Carlos Baerga in his prime, Albert Bell, Eddie Murray, who had 3,000 hits. I mean, it was just top to bottom studs in that lineup.
Quick racist story by me, right?
Okay.
So I went to go see the White Sox. It was a few games before the playoffs when they won the World Series. When they were playing, they were trying to clinch the playoffs. Yeah, when they were going to win the World Series, they were playing the Indians. They had El Duque and everything.
Oh yeah.
And I was pretty wasted. I used to go to. I enjoyed going to baseball games and getting wasted. I remember I was so drunk.
It's the best.
I started screaming things about the Indians. Maybe said words like savages, things like that.
Okay.
Completely drunk. Oh no, that's not the one I got my shirt off. But then I did get to see El Duque, and that's when they had. But I saw the Indians. My one time seeing the Indians was right before the White Sox won the World Series, and I went on I was a fat Mexican, racist Indian, red man. There's probably things like that came out when I was like in my early 20s.
Well, but that's the thing about having a name like that is once you get drunk, it invites people. Like first of all, the name, in my opinion, is already over the line. But then when people get drunk, what happens after that is even further over the line.
And you've seen all the Major League movies, right?
No, I've only seen. I liked the first one so much, and I heard the others were just a total disappointment. The first one's one of my favorite movies of all time, but I heard the rest were a disappointment. So I'm like, you know what? I have a great fondness for that.
I want to ruin it for you.
I watch that first one probably once a year, almost. Like that's how much I enjoy it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to watch the other ones. Are they good?
I like the second one because I saw it first. I've seen most sequels first in my life, and then I've seen it's weird.
All right.
But
that might make sense based on your age. So like Major League came out when I was young.
And then I saw the first one and I was like, because he loses it.
But yeah, you like Major League 2 was probably the one you would have seen based on your age first.
And then I was like, so I want to see the first one. Okay, do you have any plugs? Now, plugs. I
have just 2 plugs. I have a new book that's out called Places I Can't Return To that we've been talking about. You can get it at SeanBairFlannery.com. I release a new chapter every week, so you can follow it as an audiobook, as a podcast, or you can read it online. And then I host a live show every Friday at the Lincoln Lodge called the Blackout Diaries, and that is also a podcast that I host with a very funny guy called CJ Sullivan.
Oh, CJ, I know CJ.
Yeah, he's the best. And it's a
clown show with him years ago. One of my first shows. There's a guy
like a red-nosed clown.
No, he ran a show, and he was actually a clown.
Oh, I know. No, that guy's
Sad
insane.
Town Clowns.
Patrick,
yes, him.
What's his name?
Him.
Yeah, he's insane. Dude, you want to know a real quick story about how I met him one night? And I'm like, okay, well, I want to know this guy. He's at Comedians You Should Know. He's in the back row in a hospital gown with the actual hospital sticker on. So he broke out of a hospital and came to see a comedy show.
Should I have him on the podcast, or is he too insane? I've thought about it. He's on my list.
But
he paid me. He paid me great.
He's not.
He's a nice guy.
This is the thing about Patrick. Patrick is an extremely smart, good guy who has a very unhealthy relationship with alcohol. And I think, and I know he just had major heart surgery. I hope he's well if you're out there, Patrick. I think if you had him on the podcast, he'd be totally fine.
Yeah.
Now, he was the kind of person that could be a total wild card at a bar, though.
Okay.
But I think in this setting, I think he would show up sober and he would be fine.
Yeah, he was sober at our show.
His stories are amazing because he used to live at Old Town Ale House in the 70s and 80s. And he has crazy stories about like that scene and all like the weird, like, because it was like this weird almost Casablanca meeting of mobsters and artists and comics and clowns. He has amazing stories.
Okay. So, Blackout Diaries, going back to the plug.
Yeah, no, that's it. Blackout Diaries in the book, which you can get at SeanBairFlannery.com. It's on Amazon everywhere, but like go to SeanBairFlannery.com because then you can also get all the free content too.
Okay. And follow Lobo Den Podcast on Instagram. There's other social media. Facebook. I have a group. It's pretty funny and disgusting. And again, thank you.
I'm a member of that group.
Oh, it's insane, but it's pretty fun. Join the Patreon, $3 a month to support the podcast. I don't post anything on there usually, but I'm going to try to now because I have this conflict.
You got to find these videos and post. I would join your Patreon just to find these videos of you in a wheelchair at a porn store in Wisconsin.
And I'm going to put the picture up of we didn't talk about the girl in the crutches. Okay, Lobo Den.
Lobo Den.